right, 10:02 on this Monday morning. Mark Malusis with you in for BT and Sal, and hopefully everyone out there had themselves a wonderful weekend. Plenty to get to, plenty to chat about, so we begin. 888-808-1019 is your number to call. Dove across the way, other side. We've got you for the next 4 hours, right up until 2 o'clock this afternoon, and it's going to be a lot of football over the course of the next 4 hours. And I'll tell you this, as we get set to ring in a new year this upcoming week, right? Tomorrow, New Year's Eve, and whatever you might be doing to celebrate, however you might be ringing out 2024, ringing in 2025. I'll tell you, for the New York football teams, get to next year. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. The football scene in this area, in this marketplace, has been so bad. And for a comedy of errors, like yesterday needed to be the day. Like, if you're a Giant fan, we'll get to the Jets here in a little bit, but obviously the Giants are the big-time lead because right now, as you wake up, they went into yesterday with the number one overall draft choice in line, riding a 10-game losing streak, winless at home, welcoming in the Indianapolis Colts, who had a little something to play for after the Cincinnati victory, despite the Chargers win. After the Cincinnati victory against the Denver Broncos, the Colts still had, even though it was a long shot, they still had something to play for. The Giants went into that game as a heavy underdog, and yesterday against Indianapolis, as the sun started to shine, as we had rain throughout the course of the weekend, yesterday against the Indianapolis Colts, the Giants played arguably, I mean, not even arguably, their most complete football game that they've done this entire year to garner a win against the Colts. You had Drew Lock at a quarterback rating of $155. You had Malik Neighbors, I mean, basically blitzing that entire Colts secondary. They couldn't cover him if their life depended on it. You got over all the Devontae Banks, Tay Banks defensive pass interference. You got a kick return for a touchdown. They did a nice job of slowing down Jonathan Taylor, and their secondary generated 2 picks against Joe Flacco. And if you didn't think Brian Daboll was into it, look at the emotion that he was showing on the sideline. To those that were celebrating at MetLife Stadium yesterday, the Giant fan that was excited, and listen, nobody wants to go winless. And here's the thing. Nobody on that team, when you look at those players, when you look at that coaching staff, is thinking about, Lambeau Field, Green Bay next spring, and the Giants having the number one overall draft choice. They're thinking about the here and now. I never played in the National Football League, but, I do know this. Tape don't lie. So you're going to go out there and continue to go and play as hard as you possibly can, especially if you're, holding on by your fingertips to stay in the National Football League, and that's exactly what the Giants did yesterday. As a team, they played an amazing game. Every time the Colts made a run to get themselves within one score, the Giants responded with a touchdown every single time. And then how about the Lock scramble for the touchdown to put them up 2 scores late in the game, and all she wrote, and then the cherry on the top, the Flacco overthrow and the pick. As Giant fans across the tri-state area, I mean, I laugh because it's just the chef's kiss. That's what it is. It is the chef's kiss. Now listen, nobody wants to go through the embarrassment of being winless at home. Nobody within that Giant organization wanted to do that. Right? Nobody wants to be in the record books. But when you have been this bad for this long, when you're looking for, and I went to Don Bosco Prep, when you're looking to Tommy DeVito to spark the team once again for a second straight year, when you don't have Daniel Jones to punch around anymore and knock around, as he's now a member of the Minnesota Vikings. Back up, but still, he's up there in Minnesota. When you've dealt with injuries, whether it be Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence, Tay Banks questioning whether or not his effort throughout the course of the year, the drops by the receivers, Malik Neighbors, by the way, Neighbors basically caught everything that was thrown his way yesterday. Played a near-perfect game, as did Locke, who looked like a complete utter stiff. How about the run defense without Lawrence? I mean, the best overall player. How about Lawrence? How about him not on the field, suffered that dislocated elbow against the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and still the Giant defense yesterday swarming. The strip sack fumble to clinch the game. I mean, it is it is amazing when you look at it. When you look at what this Giant team has been able to do, what they did yesterday, and the chagrin of Giant fans as you wake up on this Monday morning and the Giants are sitting there with the 4th overall selection and the hopes and the dreams, and we'll get to that in just a moment, because the dream of getting that quarterback is not over despite the win yesterday. I'll explain a little bit. But, you know, I wake up this morning, and I love Jerry and Willie, but they're breaking down how you can get quarterbacks in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round. I mean, guys, like, come on. I love you guys. That's great. Fantastic. And our number 1 overall draft choices doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go out there and win a Super Bowl. No, the Giants are looking for relevancy. That's really it. You look across the landscape of the National Football League, what the Giants are looking for. What the Jets had hoped for when they traded for Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers is that each and every year you're going to have an opportunity to win. And a quarterback in the National Football League, the most important position in the NFL, gives you that opportunity. That's it. That's the point. You went for 5+ years debating about whether or not Daniel Jones was good or not. We're a long way away from Eli Manning, who might get inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this year, one of the 15 finalists. We're a long way away from Phil Simms. My God, we are a long way away from Jeff Rutledge. That's the point. Is you want to go out there and get the quarterback. Look across the National Football League. I mean, you watch the game last night down in Maryland. Watch what Jaden Daniels has done to the Washington Commanders. Yes, they got rid of, Daniel Snyder sells the team. They bring in Quinn. They attack free agency. Peters has done a nice job as general manager. But let's be honest, the Washington Commanders are not going out there and having a double-digit win season if Marcus Mariota is their starting quarterback. And you might say to yourself, well, listen, Sanders and Ward, it's not exactly like you're missing out on Peyton Manning, not exactly like you're missing out on Andrew Luck. You're not missing out on this, transformational quarterback, right? This generational talent. They're not that. Well, I don't know. I got to be honest with you, I don't know. And let's look at this grading out process. There were some that debated about whether or not Ryan Leaf was going to be a better quarterback, was just as good of a quarterback prospect, if not better than Peyton Manning when he was coming out of Washington State. How'd that work out? Not good. Heath Schuler. I can run through the litany of quarterbacks that were supposed to be great in the National Football League that ended up being not so good. And I could also bring up quarterbacks Lamar Jackson, coming out of Louisville. There was great debate about Lamar Jackson. You even had Bill Polian basically saying he needed to be a wide receiver or a running back in the NFL in order to go out there and make it. He's won MVPs. That's what the win yesterday did. Now, hope is not lost. What you have to hope for now, if you're a Giant fan, is this. The little, I would say, diamond. You need the Patriots to have the number 1 overall pick. That's what you need. Because then there's still a pathway. Whether it be Sanders, whether it be Cam Ward, there is still a pathway for the Giants potentially to go out there and get their quarterback that they want, whoever it might be. What you don't want to have happen is the Patriots drop out of that number 1 overall selection. Because I don't know what the Philadelphia Eagles are going to do this week. The Giants, Philadelphia's got nothing to play for. I understand Saquon Barkley, and that's another add insult to injury. Saquon Barkley going out there and becoming the 9th running back in the history of the NFL to surpass 2,000 yards yesterday in a 41-7 victory by the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sure. That did not helped the night when, that has been let's be honest, that's been a thorn in the side of the Giants co-owner John Mara throughout the course of the year. Watching what Barkley has been for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he has been the diesel to that offensive engine for Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles this entire year. And he is just 101 yards away from surpassing Eric Dickerson's mark. Now, what do I think plays out on Sunday for the Eagles? Do I think they play? I don't know. I was talking to my dad driving down the West Side Highway this morning, as I often do, and he was like, what do you think the Eagles are going to do? I'm like, I'm not so sure. I really don't. I'll tell you this, if they go out there and try and get this rushing mark for Saquon Barkley and he ends up getting hurt, the people down in Philadelphia will never let Nick Sirianni live it down. I mean, I understand it's an all-time mark, 2,105 yards by Eric Dickerson. Did it with the Los Angeles Rams year 2. You have to go back, 1984, I believe it was. I mean, an unbelievable season. Averaged nearly 6 yards a carry. Did it in one less game, but I think the carries over the season will be right around the same amount. I went through it yesterday during the Football Sunday show. I don't know what the Eagles are going to do. I mean, gun to my head, you want to use that cliche? I'd probably tell you I don't think Barkley plays. I think the Eagles rest guys and get ready for the bigger goal, which the Philadelphia Eagles are one of the teams to go along with the Vikings, potentially the Packers, and obviously a banged-up Lion team that potentially can get through the NFC and get themselves to a Super Bowl. But for the Giants here, it is just amazing what transpired yesterday. Like stunned. The Colts played, a terrible football game. A terrible game. They really did. But give the Giants credit. And for their head coach, Brian Daboll, the Giants, that is. It is, I would say this. The messaging after the game, talking about being a quarterback away. If you give me a quarterback, it could look obviously a lot different than it has. Interesting statements. I don't think you need to read any of the tea leaves. You've seen the reports, whether it be from Schwartz of the New York Post, whether it be Diana Rossini from The Athletic, that there doesn't necessarily mean to be, there can be a split between Shane and Daboll. No decisions have been made about the future direction of the Giant organization. I believe all that to be true. And yesterday, Brian Daboll's team negated the embarrassment of being winless at home, played their best football game of the year, and in the end, with that victory, potentially, put the future of this organization, in question. What I mean by that is not being able to get the quarterback, because in the NFL, it's all about the quarterback. It's just amazing. Like, get me to 2025. Get me to next year. Get me to next spring. See exactly where the Giants are in the draft process. See where the Jets are. We'll get to the Jets here in a little bit as well, because it's going to be a big football Monday. You got Niners and Lions later on tonight. Big game, as Hilo mentioned, the top of the hour update. Lions and Vikings next Sunday night to decide the number 1 seed in the NFC, and also who wins the NFC North. We're almost at playoff time in the National Football League. The fantasy football is in the rearview mirror. I'm sure people got knocked out all over the place if you're still around in knockout pools, because the Indianapolis Colts yesterday at MetLife Stadium laid an absolute egg, and the Giants played a game unlike we've ever seen them play this entire season. The most complete game the Giants played this entire year was yesterday. In front of basically half the crowd. And a team for Indianapolis that had something to play for. It was just amazing. Like, Locke yesterday looked like Joe Montana. Listen, Montana, young Montana. Athleticism, running, escaping, throwing seeds, throwing guys on time, throwing with anticipation. It was the best Drew Lock I've seen in quite some time. Yesterday, Locke played like the $5 million backup quarterback the Giants gave it to him in the offseason. Yesterday, to the chagrin of Giant fans throughout the tri-state area. It was just a sight to behold. And neighbors said, you know what? The hell with the number 1 overall pick. I'm going to show you I'm a star. And he was. 888-808-1019. That is your number to call. Let's head out to Oklahoma City. First up here on this Monday, it's Lawrence. It's the Fan. What's going on, Lawrence?
Hey, man, good to talk to you again. I don't know if you remember speaking to me recently, but this was my biggest fear, man, that this exact thing would happen and we would win this game. Like, I'm happy to see them play well, but there were plenty of opportunities to pump the brakes yesterday and still put out a good game and not hose us. Because the difference between picking first overall and fourth, it's no good. And what you know what I'm saying? They absolutely hosed us. I understand you have to look good. You can't lay it down. But what the hell? Where's the direction? There's not one person there saying pump the brakes, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Lawrence, let's be honest. Lawrence, you think? Hold on a second. So you have a coach that's coaching for his career in Dable, right? As a head coach in the National Football League. Questions about whether or not he'll be back in 2025. You've got players who could care less about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, who are not only coaching or not only playing for their Giant careers, but potentially for their NFL careers. And you expect them, and then you have leadership in that room. So you expect the Giants co-owner, John Mara, or Joe Shane to go into that room and say, no, guys, we're going to lose Sunday.
You gotta hope that there's one person on that team that is going to be on there for the long term that does care about those picks. That'll cough up a fumble for you or something. That's where I'm at, man. You know what I mean?
So when you lose at the rate we're losing now. To go, I mean, Lawrence, let's be realistic. Players are going to go out there.
Absolutely. 10 years
Players are going to go out to play. Lawrence, here's the point that frustrates you. That's never going to happen. And nor would I ever want those players on my football team that are going out there potentially throwing games. That's number one. Number two, or going out and the messaging from the organization. Here's the issue you have. The issue that you'd have that's frustrating if you're a Giant fan, and I get it, is it didn't matter. Like, we get into these conversations time and time again. Well, what are Giant fans rooting for? I said it yesterday. I didn't think it mattered. Whether you're rooting for them to win, whether you're rooting for them to lose, whether you want to see some Giant pride, whether you didn't want to see them suffer through the embarrassment, I didn't think it mattered. Why? Because the Giants were terrible. Like, we're terrible. That's the point. And you look at the game that they played yesterday and you say to yourself, well, where was this? Outside of the Colts. But where was this entire year? Why did it look so bad for so long? And I get Indianapolis didn't play well. Indianapolis didn't tackle. Indianapolis didn't match the attack. But why did the Giants yesterday look as good as they did? And where was that the entire season? Not saying that the Giants were going to be a playoff team this year, but I mean, we have been talking about the number one overall pick for the Giants and talking about Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward now. It feels like for months. I mean, this football season feels like it's been an eternity. That would be the question I'd have, is why yesterday? And if you were capable of playing that well yesterday, why did it look so bad for so long? That's the point. So, no. There is nobody within that Giant organization, whether it be the Giants co-owner, John Mara, on down, Tish, I mean, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to go to the head coach and say, listen, we expect you to lose on Sunday. That is not the way it works. Nor do any one of those players out there care. Listen, let me ask you this. Malik Neighbors' Heisman Trophy was being awarded to Travis Hunter. Malik Neighbors was out there in New York City catching passes from Shedeur Sanders. Malik Neighbors yesterday, what do you have? He had nearly 200 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Do you think he cares about the number one overall pick? No. Neighbors is tired of losing. Long Island, Corey, the Fan. What's going on, Corey?
Yeah, hi, good morning. Today I'm a happy Giants fan. I want to say there's no way the NFL should reward losing. Put the bottom 8 teams in a lottery draft and call it a day. Nobody should be talking about next year. Or how you play this year shouldn't affect what your draft pick. It's just, I think it's pathetic.
Wait, run that by me again, Corey.
I think I'm talking about losing, or I know players don't intentionally lose, but I think this talk of tanking, it's just pathetic. The draft should be on a lottery basis. Put the bottom 8 teams in a lottery, and that's it. That way, you're not gonna be hoping your team loses, or You know?
Yeah, I mean, Corey, listen, I have no issue with the way the NFL does it. I really don't. The NFL loves parity. They give you an opportunity, and they want you to try and win. It's good to be an NFL owner. People are falling over themselves to be part of the National Football League and to broadcast games. They are making money hand over fist. So, if you are a bad football team and the idea of tanking, well, you just saw it yesterday. And I heard Giant fans tell me, wow, the Giants are trying to lose. Well, no, they weren't. They were just bad. But I heard that. Well, this is just, I've heard a lot of different things from Giant fans over the course of the last 2 months that turned out to be complete and utter nonsense. And what you saw yesterday was a frustrated team that faced an opponent that didn't match the intensity of the Giants. The Colts did not. And the Giants won the game. And, it was a stunning performance. It really was. The Giants went into that game yesterday offensively. They were averaging, 15 points per game. They scored 21 points in the first half. They kicked off the second half with a 101-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to take a 28-13 lead. It's amazing. How about the stop on Jonathan Taylor on 4th and short? How about that? How about the emotion that you saw from Daboll as well on the sideline? He was fiery, feisty, peppy. He was into it. How about the hug with him and, Drew Lock at the end of the game? Neighbors going out there. Just talk about lackluster defense when you're looking at Gus Bradley and the Indianapolis Colts. What was exactly the defensive game plan there? And the Giants played an unbelievable football game. But you say to yourself, well, why did it take now? Why now? You've been bad so long. You've been terrible so long. Why yesterday? Well, they rose up. As Tom Coughlin used to say, showed a little good old-fashioned Giants pride. But hope is not lost in terms of finding that quarterback. And that is what the Giants are going to be in search of finding that quarterback. We could run through all the bridge guys and do all that. What you have to hope for is that the New England Patriots end up with the number 1 overall pick. Because if they do, then there's an opportunity to make a trade. Then there's an opportunity to move up. Now, it's going to cost you a lot. I get it. But if there's one of those quarterbacks, whether it be Sanders or Ward, that you believe is going to be the guy, then you know what? You go up and you go get him. They tried last year. Robbie and Lennox. What's going on, Robbie?
Hey, what's up? How you doing, Mark? Happy belated Christmas. Hope it was a good time. So anyway, listen, I was just mentioning, I'm happy they won yesterday, Mark. I've been watching this team since 1972 behind the poles at Yankee Stadium, so I was happy they won. I know the Colts didn't tackle great. There's a kid in Indiana, there's a kid in Ohio University named Parker Navarro, who I watched films of. I like this kid a lot. I like him even better than those other guys, and I think Parker's going to be a good player. So I don't know if you've ever seen him play, but have you watched him at all?
I have not, no.
Okay. Yeah, he plays, it's kind of the same league that, obviously produced Ben Roethlisberger. So, it's not a great league at all, but I watch films of Navarro. He can run, he can throw. He's pretty good. So take a look at him. I think he's even better than any of those guys, but we'll see, But the thing to me, Mark, is about trading down. I think this team needs to trade down and build a roster, because you look at depth rosters all through the NFL, and you look at the Giants' depth roster, with the exception of Dexter and Okereke and a few other players, they don't have a real depth chart. So I would say, what would you say about trading down? Do you like that idea better than drafting a quarterback?
Yeah, Robbie.
Well,
Robbie, here's the deal.
Yep.
If you like a quarterback if there's a quarterback you love, you draft the quarterback. You don't draft a quarterback for the sake of drafting one. That's then compounding the problem. That's what I don't think the Giants will do. But if there's a quarterback you love, you take the quarterback, because that's what you're in search of. Look across the landscape of the National Football League. That's what you want. It's not a matter of just going out there and winning Super Bowls. It's a matter of being relevant year in and year out. That's the point. And the Giants have been in search of one. They thought they had one in Daniel Jones. That proved not to be the case. Now they're trying to find one. And I understand you can go different routes. You really can. Look at what Sam Darnold is doing this year for Minnesota. But let's be honest, the Minnesota Vikings went out there and drafted J.J. McCarthy coming out of Michigan. They thought he was going to be their guy. Darnold was the backup plan. Now it's worked. Sam has been great. Geno Smith took him a while to develop with Seattle, and you're happy for those guys. Obviously, staying the course, landing in the right spot, and all of those things. How about the story of Jared Goff, basically thrown to the wolves by McVay and the Los Angeles Rams out to Detroit? Look at what he's doing with the Lions. Because they felt as an organization they couldn't win. They got Stafford and went out there and won a Super Bowl. So that's what the Giants are in search for. They're in search of that franchise quarterback.